So you've set yourself a number on the scales, or you've set yourself a certain dress size, and you're so close. You're within touching distance, but you're not quite there, and you're to-ing and fro-ing, and you're fucking about. Is it really worth it? Are you forgetting how far you've come? Let's discuss it and let's see what it is that we need to do to make this successful. Welcome to our podcast, Fuck the Diet Cycle, with myself, Lauren Knight, and Abby Lodge. This is for you if you want to cut through the diet industry bullshit and finally end that cycle. Grab yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive straight in, shall we?
I think that this is so common on any weight loss journey that you go on. You start your journey and you say, let's use 6 stone, for example. I need to lose 6 stone. You're desperate, whatever. Things are going really, really well. But you might get to that last half a stone and you start to really, really mess up. You can't stick to anything anymore like you could in the beginning. You're beating yourself up. You may even find that the scales start going up again because you are self-sabotaging yourself. But because you'd set yourself that number in the beginning of, I need to lose 6 stone, you feel like if you don't hit that 6 stone or that dress size, we're not just going by scales here, it could be a dress size, that you have absolutely screwed everything up. You have failed, and what is the point? You're forgetting all the weight that you've lost previously and how much that means, and not just the weight, how your relationship with food has changed. And if you are continuing to self-sabotage yourself, binging and all these types of things because you can't just get to that number, you're effectively undoing all of that hard work you've done for the sake of, let's say, £7, which if you look at somebody, they're not going to say, oh, you've lost that £7, you've lost that 6 stone. No, it doesn't make that much of a huge difference in terms of your appearance. And it's about taking into consideration, is it worth completely undoing all of the work I've done and, potentially putting on weight, or being like, okay, I've worked incredibly hard, I've done incredibly fucking well, I've changed my life. Now is the time to stop and work on how I'm going to maintain that, because you might find that that last £7 is actually your buffer weight. And if you were to lose that 7 weight and then you've got an even lower buffer, you're never going to be able to maintain it. And the same happened for me. I set myself 10.5 stone, got to 10.5 stone, and then thought, oh, maybe I want to lose another stone and I want to go 9.5 stone because that sounds like a good number. Well, Abby, you don't walk around with a scale in your bloody head. And that's exactly what Lauren said to me. You don't introduce yourself. And in reality, I could never, ever do that last stone because I was never going to be able to maintain it, because that wasn't where I would be happy. Yeah, okay, maybe in clothes and stuff, you would see a difference. But in reality, I'm now 2 years maintaining 4 stone loss, perfectly happy. My life has changed. It's about actually acknowledging, is it worth putting myself through it for that next half a stone, which isn't really going to make much of a massive difference.
Yeah, and I think this is where people really start to beat themselves up, because they went through all of that hard bit at the beginning. Going on a weight loss journey is not easy. It's one of the hardest things to go through, especially when you're ending the cycle and beating a food addiction. And when you're in the moment and you're really getting into the flow, you kind of just take it in your stride. You forget about the hard times that you've pushed through. You forget about all that work that you've done on your mindset and relationship towards food. And then as we're getting towards the end, when you're fitting in the clothes and you've got all of these incredible non-scale victories, all of a sudden your focus is on these measly few pounds or that tiny couple of inches to get you into the dress size, that you literally just disregard all of that work, and that entire focus is so fixated. But let's face it, when you look in the mirror, you can hold your gaze now. When you look in the mirror, you like what you see. When you look in the mirror, you could put on clothes and go, yeah, I look good. And yeah, there might be still a few bits on your body that you've got hang-ups. We all do, we're human. But on the whole, you genuinely like what you see. So why are you really ripping yourself to shreds over a few pounds? No one will know. Put a bloody permanent marker on the scales to put the number that you want. No one will know. It's only you. And as we said before in our previous episode, the scales do not define you. Your dress size does not define you. Jazz quite clearly said on that episode that you could be a completely different dress size in multiple different shops. So what does it matter? What matters is you are happy, you are healthy, you've broken the diet cycle, and you are now able to enjoy food without losing control. Those are the most important things. So let's start looking at, when do you get to this point? You get to this point when you start tripping yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
You get to this point when you realize that actually, do you know what? You just can't stick to it for love nor money. You want to enjoy the food. You're starting to feel like you're restricting and then binging. And we're starting to see those bad habits come back into place. And I didn't say bad food, I said bad habits, because it's not the food, it's your relationship with it. So if you're trying to restrict, and then you think, fuck it, can't do it, you binge. And then you go, oh shit, what have I done that for? I still need to lose that 4 pounds. You restrict, you binge, you haven't lost the 4 pounds, you've gained 1. You restrict, you lose a couple of pounds, you get diva fever, and it goes round. And now we're in a different kind of diet cycle. You've put yourself in chasing this number, and that number will never come. So stop. Look for the signs, listen to our advice, and just know that it's okay to be happy, even if you haven't hit that number, because you don't have that glass ball. You are not Mystic Meg. You can't, at the beginning of your journey, go, oh, Lauren, oh, Abby, when I get to 10 stone 4, that is my goal weight and everything's going to be perfect. It just doesn't work like that. So instead, look at how you feel in yourself, look at how your clothes are fitting, and accept the fact that you've done damn amazing. And now it's time to start learning how to hold it here.
And I think it's also really important to note that if you do get to that point and you are tripping yourself up and these habits are creeping back in, and you do decide enough is enough, I'm going to work on maintaining, you will probably find in the process of reverse dieting to a maintenance calorie, you will naturally shed that last little bit anyway, without, because you took that focus away from that number, that close size or whatever. You're now focusing on how your life is going to look going forward. You will probably find that it does just go naturally, and one day you might just stand on the scales just because and be like, I did it. And you went through months and months of giving yourself hell because you couldn't do it. You take that pressure off. You think, no, enough's enough. And you do it naturally anyway. It's about removing that pressure. And I think so many people put themselves into a box of, I have to be a perfect size 10, or my BMI has to be, because my doctor tells me that if my BMI is in this, I'm not going to get any health complications. Whilst, yes, if you do have a higher BMI, you are more exposed to weight related issues. I'm not saying that, but BMI, it puts you in a box. Yes, we do need to have healthy
It's
BMI,
old
but
fashioned.
it's old fashioned, and it does put you into a box. And it's a bit like the whole kids at school, like this is the borderline of what they should be, but it doesn't take into consideration their individual kind of needs and stuff. And it's the same with our body types. You know, you could have two people completely side by side that look identical, but their BMIs are totally different. Like it's a very old fashioned way of doing things, and it puts people into a box. And we're not about putting people into a box. It's about how you feel deep down, how your mental health is doing. You know, are you are you able to have those trigger foods in the house? Because that is so much more freeing to be able to have certain trigger foods in your house again without thinking, shit, I'm going to eat them all, than worrying about those silly little pounds on the scales.
Yeah, and do you know what I really think is a powerful tool that we get our clients to do is writing that future letter to themselves. So at the beginning of the journey, we advise our clients to write a letter to their future self about how they would feel when they'd lost their weight, when they're able to hit certain milestones, when they're able to do certain things. And like I just said, you can lose yourself a bit. When you lose that weight and you get into that kind of everyday motion, you forget how desperate you were when you first reached out. So having that letter and really going deep with it when you write it can bring you back into reality pretty quickly. And that is powerful because it allows you to go, actually, I fucking did it. I'm
Yeah.
proud of myself. I can stop now. I am allowed to reverse diet out. I am allowed to start enjoying food and seeing where this new future brings me and what doors it opens. And Abby is 100% right. I came onto my journey and I did set myself a goal. I set myself a goal to lose 5 stone because I remember being that certain weight. And in my head, I was like, right, when I get to that weight, I know that I was pretty relatively happy and I would die to be that weight again. So I set myself that weight and I got to that weight and then I became a consultant and I went on to lose another stone. Now, I wouldn't have set myself 6 stone. It kind of just happened because I was experimenting with a product so that I could explain what they tasted like and trying out new bits and pieces at home so I could help my clients. And I just naturally lost that extra stone as I was working through the steps, trying it all out, and it just came off. I then tried to lose an extra stone after that, but I didn't want it enough. I just didn't want it. I was kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to see the nines on the scales? It would be
Yeah.
lovely. It would be lovely. But it ain't going to happen because the reason why it wouldn't happen is because it didn't matter to me anymore. I was happy in my own skin. I'd got my love of fashion back. I enjoyed going out. I was socializing. I'd done a skydive. I'd left a shitty job. Like everything that my weight loss allowed me to achieve was happening. And seeing that 9 stone, whatever, on the scales, it brought me no relevance. And that's what you need to ask yourself. What is those extra few pounds or what is that extra stone actually going to bring to my life? And if it's really not anything other than, oh, you get to say that you're 9 stone something or you're 10 stone or whatever, then it means nothing and you'll never get there because you don't want it enough. And we all know that in order to lose the weight, your focus and your want to change has to be pretty high up on your list.
Yeah.
So let's forget about it. And also, what I think is if I'd got to 9 stone, I'd be so scared of eating that I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to enjoy food like I do now. And I love food. I eat delicious food, but I eat it from control and from balance. Whereas at 9 stone, because that's not naturally where I think I would sit,
You'd be
it would
restricting
require
yourself.
a lot of work. And I'm
Yeah,
not
and that's
about that.
that's exactly what I had. Oh, yeah, it'd be lovely to, but again, I enjoy food. I love food. I would be restricting myself, and then naturally, what's going to come in after restricting? I'm going to start binging, and then I'm going to start undoing all that work. So, what is the point? But I think a final point to add is a lot of people, when they start a weight loss journey, they will set their goal at, like you said, you thought that you found your happy weight, but they will set it at a younger version of themselves.
Yeah.
So, oh, when I was 18, I weighed X amount
Yeah.
and I looked amazing. And I wish I was as fat as I thought I was back then, when you look at the pictures. But what these people are forgetting is for a lot of us, we've had children, bodies
Yeah.
have changed. And, what you look like then isn't what your body's going to look like now. So, also taking that into consideration that our bodies do change and we may not be able to get to that weight anymore because we have aged, life has happened, especially females, like the body does change. So don't set yourself a target of, oh, when I was 18, I weighed 9 stone, so that's what I'm going to get to, because that's not good enough. Like, that is not a good enough reason to want to get to that weight.
Yeah. And also on the flip of that as well, your actual lifestyle changes. So
Mm.
I've got a picture of myself wearing the same dress. I'm exactly the same weight, but in the second photo, I look a lot smaller than what I do in the first photo. And that's because I went through this really crazy stage where I thought I liked exercise, realized I didn't. However, at the time, it did change my body. I didn't change on the scales. So could you imagine if I was chasing a number on the scales and not actually looking at the difference in my body, what that could have done to my mindset? So you need to take into consideration your lifestyle as well. It's not all about the number. And I think we've said this so many times. So for those of you that are so close to your goal weight, just take a moment to reflect on how incredible you actually are, all of the work that you've put into yourself. Like Abby said, the changes to your mindset and relationship towards food, and whether or not those extra pounds really even matter. Thank you for listening. If you loved it, don't forget to press that subscribe button and the little bell so that you never miss a future episode. We will be back here with a new one on Sunday at 7 a.m. We'll see you there.